I don't find funerals funny. But here's a story about a funeral that I found hilarious. Because this funeral had Donald Trump. And that guy can turn anything into...
Wanda Sykes just dropped a comedy bomb on Melania. And you can bet Trump is probably rage tweeting into a microwave right about now. So what did she say? And just how bad was it? Stick around because this roast is hotter than Trump's tanning bed, cranked up to extra crispy. Let's get into it.
First guest tonight is an Emmy-winning writer, actor, and comedian who has been very amusingly annoyed for well over 3 decades. New episodes of her show, The Upshaws, are on Netflix now. Please welcome Wanda Sykes.
When people thought Melania had mastered the art of gracefully dodging responsibility, Wanda Sykes came in with a microphone and zero chill. I mean, let's be honest. Being First Lady usually requires a bit of effort, a dash of passion, and maybe even a hint of genuine emotion. But Melania, she strolled through the role like a department store mannequin that got left outside during a parade. And speaking of jobs, Wanda couldn't help but highlight the most puzzling aspect of Melania's entire time in the spotlight. Did she even want to be there? From swatting Trump's hand away like it was carrying a contagious tax fraud charge, to looking utterly drained every time she had to stand next to him for more than 3 minutes.
But I really have to say, the media is even more biased this year than ever before. Ever. You want the proof? Michelle Obama gives a speech, and everyone loves it. It's fantastic. They think she's absolutely great. My wife, Melania, gives the exact same speech. And people get on her case.
It was like watching someone forced to fake enthusiasm. Can you imagine trying to launch a Be Best campaign while your husband is out there typing in all caps like a boomer who just discovered Facebook? But the real kicker? The mystery of her accent. It somehow thickened with every speech. By the end of 4 years, she sounded like she was auditioning for a role in a Cold War spy thriller. And those speeches? Let's just say theft is a crime, unless you're lifting entire paragraphs from Michelle Obama, in which case apparently it's all good. Wanda wasn't just throwing shade at Melania, she was unraveling a national enigma. Why did Melania always seem like she was just a heartbeat away from diving into an escape tunnel?
Talking somewhat about Donald Trump, hard not to these days. What's your opinion about President Trump?
Oh, sweet Jesus. Well, you know, it's like everyone's waiting for this moment for him to become presidential. Right. You know, they're like, oh, he has to learn how to control his emotions. He has to learn to be measured. You know, but the man is 70 years old. Those are things that you teach kids. You know, I'm teaching my 7-year-olds those things.
Right.
You know, Trump is 70. He's not going to learn that now.
Yeah.
You know, if he's a dick, he's just going to be a dick.
All right.
That's it.
Okay, so
What was up with her choice of Christmas decorations that felt like they were screaming blood sacrifice? And most importantly, was she blinking in Morse code for help? If the answer to that last question is yes, then America might have just overlooked the first ever hostage situation in the White House. Meanwhile, Trump was probably reacting in his usual way whenever someone dares to poke fun at him. Think full-on toddler tantrum. Picture flying objects, a meltdown in all caps, and a long rambling rant about how he's the most unfairly treated man on the planet. But somewhere in the background, a McDonald's bag quivered. As for Melania, she handled it the only way she knew how, by saying absolutely nothing. When in doubt, just fade into the shadows, wait for the news cycle to pass, and act like none of this ever happened. It's a strategy. It's a vibe. And honestly, it works.
You know, was going to stop being a liar. I knew that was going to continue, right? I knew. I mean, so but what I did was instead of focusing on specific incidents or specific policy, it was more about us and how we're behaving and how we're not reacting, in my opinion, you know, normally towards what's happened to what he's doing.
Wanda really outdid herself this time. She didn't just take a jab at Melania, she went after the entire Trump empire. And let's just say, there were no survivors. The audience barely had a moment to catch their breath before she switched gears. I mean, why stop at Melania when the human tantrum machine himself was lurking in the shadows of his own self-made irrelevance. That's right, Trump, a guy whose ego is more delicate than a soap bubble in a hurricane, was watching this all unfold like a contestant who got booted off The Apprentice. You could almost hear the distant whines of unfair, unfair, because if there's one thing he hates more than an unpaid bill, it's a good joke at his expense. And Wanda had a treasure trove of them.
21st century and everybody has a different taste. I think they look fantastic. I hope everybody will come over and visit it. In real life, they look even more beautiful, and you are all very welcome to visit the White House, the People's House.
She started with the hand-holding issue, which was just the warm-up. Then she dove into his legendary inability to handle rejection, which was on full display every time Melania expertly sidestepped his advances like a pro running back. The crowd went wild as she painted the scene, Trump reaching for her hand like a desperate car salesman, while Melania dodged him like she just spotted a buy one, get one free deal on divorce lawyers. And then came the real masterpiece, his obsession with loyalty. Here's a guy who demands absolute devotion from everyone, whether it's politicians, aides, the White House landscapers, or even the flies buzzing around his tanning bed. You could tell he was in bed, but his wife looked like she was plotting her escape. Wanda made it clear that even a billionaire can't buy enthusiasm after the election. I found myself going around trying to console people, saying,
Jimmy, I'm a black woman and a lesbian. How the hell you think I'm doing?
What's your opinion of why it went this way? Why Americans voted the way they did?
Sometimes America is just gonna America. You know? I mean, there's so many reasons why you could say, it happened. But I think, a lot of us aren't like totally shocked, but it's like, okay, you get your hopes up and you think you move forward. And honestly, I blame those damn, Cheerio commercials and showing all those interracial couples. You scared the out of white people.
Hey, look on the bright side. It's going to be okay. I reassured everyone. I'm sure this isn't the first time we've elected a racist, sexist, homophobic president. He's not the first. He's just the first one we can confirm. The roast only fueled his love for golden furniture and his struggle with umbrellas. His tweets read like an angry Yelp review.
Big mouth kids. Donald Trump, remember him? Well, you're not gonna believe this, but he said something crazy. According to a new tell-all book, back in 2019, Trump told his chief of staff, and I quote, "Hitler did a lot of good things."
From a guy who just realized microwaves can't cook steak. Nothing was off limits at that point. The audience was in stitches while somewhere a former president was crying into a bucket of KFC, and then came the predictable post-roast meltdown. Aides were scrambling, Fox News was crafting emergency monologues, and Twitter lit up like a Christmas tree in July. Somewhere, an intern had to remind him, no, you can't sue someone just for making fun of you. Meanwhile, Wanda was unbothered, cashing her check, sipping her tea, and leaving Trump and Melania to duke it out in the world's most awkward game of who really wanted this marriage. In the depths of Mar-a-Lago, an iPhone screen was taking a beating. The tweet drafts were glorious, filled with typos and unhinged caps lock. Wanda Sykes, it had struck a nerve, and Trump was flailing like a toddler who just found out the McDonald's ice cream machine is broken. The tantrum wasn't just emotional, it was logistical. Aides were sweating, trying to figure out if there was a legal loophole to deport stand-up comedians. Could they be labeled as a national security threat? An emergency meeting was called, and the agenda was all about damage control before he rage-tweeted himself into another lawsuit. Then came the most presidential response imaginable, a rant so incoherent that even Spellcheck gave up. He called Wanda not funny, claimed she had zero talent, and threw, in the midst of all the ratings drama, Wanda was probably just lounging with a glass of wine, enjoying the chaos like it was the season finale of a reality show she wasn't even part of. But this wasn't just about a joke, it was about ego. The guy, built like an expired cheese puff, could handle a government shutdown, but a well-timed roast? Absolutely not. He could brush off a pandemic, but not a comedian with a microphone and some solid material. And the fact that it was coming from a black woman with a razor-sharp wit. Oh, the injustice. The horror. The absolute tragedy. Meanwhile, Melania played her part perfectly. Stoic, distant, and looking like she was contemplating a long, dramatic walk into the Atlantic Ocean. From a young age, my parents instilled in me the values of hard work and integrity. Rock and I grew up with the same principles. You work hard for what you want, your word is your bond, and you treat people with respect and dignity. We want our children to understand that the only limit to their achievements is the strength of their determination. Deep down, you have to wonder, did she secretly find it funny? For just a moment, did she think about DMing Wanda with a simple LOL girl? You wild. We may never know. But what we do know is that the internet took Wanda's joke and ran with it. Memes flooded in like a tsunami of pettiness. A cleverly edited clip surfaced, showcasing that infamous moment when a certain First Lady dodged a hand-holding attempt, now rebranded with a bold caption suggesting she was just inches from freedom. Another creative soul turned the presidential residence into the backdrop of a dramatic reality show teaser, slow-motion glares, suspenseful music, the whole 9 yards. For hours, social media buzzed with a trending phrase that painted the entire saga as a high-stakes escape mission, complete with plot twists and secret tunnels. And Trump. Oh, he really tried to fight back, didn't he? He went through his usual routine, calling comedians washed up, claiming nobody watches late-night TV anymore, and reminding us that he won an election he actually lost. But here's the thing. Comedy doesn't care about approval ratings. It doesn't lose lawsuits, and it certainly doesn't get impeached twice. Meanwhile, Wanda Sykes, she doesn't lose battles. So while Trump was raging in all caps, Wanda just kept on winning. And Melania? Well, let's just say she was probably brushing up on her escape routes, just in case. Panic mode was definitely engaged, with staffers sprinting through Mar-a-Lago like it was the final lap of a reality show elimination round. Someone, anyone, find his phone. The last thing the world needs is another all-caps Twitter rant that reads like a toddler mashing a keyboard in frustration. Too late, there it is, riddled with typos, unnecessary exclamation points, and a level of victimhood that makes soap opera characters look emotionally stable. Meanwhile, aides are in full crisis mode, spinning in circles like malfunctioning Roombas. Ah yes, the classic playbook. Blame the media, shake a fist at the sky, and pretend reality is just a deep fake conspiracy cooked up by internet gremlins. Brilliant. Yes, clearly it's a deep state conspiracy orchestrated by comedians, late-night hosts, and probably Michelle Obama. And then there's Melania, whose response is, well, whatever PR intern wrote it, emotionless, vague, and somehow managing to say nothing while using way too many words. Something about respect, something about tradition. And of course, the cherry on top, a reminder that she's totally fine and definitely not blinking in more